Today we're going to take a look at adding a blur to an image. The first thing that I would like you to do is just kind of take a look at the two images. The first image, the starting image, you can see is very, very clear. The second image has a kind of a blur on the outskirts of our egret bird. Okay, so now that we've looked at that, we're going to open it up a little bit differently than in Bridge. So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to go up here to File in Photoshop, and we're going to say Open as a Smart Object. This is the easiest way if you know that you want to maintain some integrity of your image, is to open it as a smart object or a smart image. So we're going to go in here and we're going to grab our egret start JPEG. We're going to go ahead and open that up. I would also like you to go ahead and hit Save As, because we do want to change the name of this, and we're going to change it to egret working, our last name, first name. Make sure it has a PSD ending on it. Since we changed this to a smart filter, it probably does, or a smart image, it probably does. So we're going to go ahead and hit Save. I already have one, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Save, Replace. Now that we are inside of our egret, the next thing I want to do, according to your book, is we are going to apply a filter. Okay, so I'm going to go up here to Filter, and I'm going to go down to Blur Gallery. And the book wants us to apply an iris blur. So I'm going to click on iris blur. But before we do that, just notice that there is a bunch of other blurs in here as well. So if I click on iris blur, those blurs that I was just showing you are over here at the right where it says blur tool. It says blur, field blur, iris blur, tilt, shift, path, and spin. So if I got in here and I changed my mind, I could just easily go in here to one of those other blurs. You will also notice that this is going to be very similar to the liquify. It is going to take you into another window where you're not seeing the move tool and those other tools. Okay, they disappear temporarily until we come out of this. Okay, the next thing I want you to note is that that the background does start to blur out, but this isn't what I want. I want to be really focused on this egret here, and the reflection, I do want that to obviously stay blurred. So I'm going to move this ellipse, and I'm just going to click on it, and I want the center of my ellipse to be approximately right here. Okay, so just a little bit above his foot. Now this center part is going to have to do with the amount of blur. I can actually click on this and drag, and you'll notice that the blur gets more and more blurred. If I look over here, as I did that, my pixels are now at 209 pixels. I don't want that much, okay? The book asks us to make a blur of 5. So we're just going to go all the way down to 5. And we could simply type it in, or we can use our slider. Next thing I want to do is I want to adjust the part right here. Actually, let's change the size of our lips. We're going to make our lips just a little smaller, because if you notice, it kind of goes off of the page, and we don't want that. So we're going to kind of make it a little smaller on the edges here. I obviously don't want it any smaller than the bird. And I'm going to actually shrink this a little bit from top to bottom as well. So we're keeping the egret focused, and then we're letting it blur on the outside. The other thing I would like to do is I would like to feather this. So I'm going to click on this feathering. If I take this inward, you'll notice it starts to blur the egret. But if I take it to the outside, it starts to really keep that in focus. And I really want that egret fully in focus. So I'm going to make sure I drag this so that this portion of it is all the way to the tail. And when I'm done, I'm going to take a look at it. I feel pretty good about this. And to accept this, I go up here and I'm going to say, okay. Now, this is what's another thing that's nice about our smart filters. Is I can, again, hide it so I don't see it, or I can double click on my blur, and I can come back in here and I can make it a little bit different. You can always edit those smart filters. If you do not have this as a smart object, that would not be available. So once I go in here, I actually want to change this to 6. just a little bit more, and I'm going to say okay. When I'm done, I'm going to hit File and Save.